Hey there guys, this is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and I'm going to now review the third book in this graphic novel Legend of Drizzt series of reviews, and this is also the third actual novel, and like Exile, I haven't actually read it. I really probably should try to finish Homeland, though I feel like I'm getting my fill with the graphic novel, because it is... R.A. Salvatore did work on it, so it's not like it's a complete adaptation. I'm sure he and the artist, and I think there was also a script guy, had to kind of compromise and discuss things to fit the format better of a graphic novel, but I would say that it's especially with what I know from Homeland by reading up to chapter 6. Now, they seem pretty faithful to me, in my opinion, at least. But the title Sojourn, meaning a journey, pretty fitting at this point because this takes place after Drizzt has decided to leave the Underdark and he's gone outside. I don't remember what they call it in D&D. I think they call it the surface. I don't remember. Like, he basically just goes outside. And it's him trying to kind of live through and do things. But and I don't remember all the details, so you'll have to forgive me if some of these details are kind of disjointed or missing information. Though I was able to remember some stuff when I rehearsed this, quote unquote, because I do kind of rehearse these things a little bit. But anyway, so it kind of starts off with Drizzt kind of trying to find a place to live, and it's mainly him sort of learning about what the outside world is like. They even make a point where it's like, the weather was pleasant and, he was having a good time. But then winter came. He didn't brace himself because winter was coming. And it's like, cold. And it's kind of ironic when you think about where he ultimately ends up. But, he's having to, find shelter in the cold winter. And he ends up living in this cave with this hibernating bear. And they do a thing where, which one will kill the other first? The bear or Drizzt? Drizzt. I still have a hard time saying his name. But so he does that, and he eventually finds this human farm, and he wants to be friends with them, but he's been kind of watching them and kind of studying them for a little bit. And it's funny how they do this. It's like this culture thing. He only does what he knows, because they confront each other, and he defeats the human who's trying to fight him, but he presents him back his sword, and in the narrator, it's to Drows, this is how they become friends with each other. When beating them and giving them their weapon back is a sign of friendship. I don't think they said it like that, but basically Drizzt was trying to demonstrate he was using what he knew about social interaction based on Drow social interaction. But of course the human's just Drow, dark elf, And so he gets scared and runs off, and Drizzt runs off, and I believe it's oh yeah, there's some. This is the part where it's going to get a little fuzzy, so you'll have to forgive me a little bit. But I believe it has something to do with the farmers are having some trouble with some creature taking their animals and eating them or something and killing them. And so Drizzt's oh, I know what I'll do. To make friends with them, I'll go find out who's killing the animals and beat them up / kill them. And it turns out to be this group of, I think they're kind of these orcish creatures. You'll have to forgive me. I'm really not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons that much. I actually don't know hardly anything about it. This is the most exposure I've ever gotten to the world, and it's the Forgotten Realms. So it's a little thing, and I played Neverwinter, but ultimately, yeah, he ends up winning and killing him. But then there was also this little shapeshifter guy who, I think what ends up happening is that Drizzt drops his sword, one of his scimitars by accident, so he only has one. But he's like, oh, well, I can still use one. It's not like it really matters much. And I believe this little shapeshifter imp guy takes it and like turns into a drow and that looks like Drizzt and murders the farm and just like what happened? And so then he's gonna have to he decides to go figure out who it is, and it's or I might have that in reverse. I think it's either Drizzt decides to help them out or the imp guy ends up killing them because they see the Drizzt as a threat, and so they're all like, okay, well, let's find a way to have him killed somehow. Something like that. But basically, shite goes down. Yeah, I think that actually makes more sense now that I think about it. So, I think what ends up happening, but yeah, Drizzt, he wins, and the imp guy, he's still alive. And then this, I forget if he's a human or a dwarf, but basically this mercenary is brought in with his crew to find the drow, so to speak, who killed the farmer people. And so they're trailing Drizzt, and so Drizzt can't stay here anymore, and the little imp guy's kind of helping them as well. But then Drizzt, he finds this treetop, villagey nature place that's being run by this blind hermit guy, and he kind of makes a bit of a home there. But he's still being chased, I believe, by the mercenary redhead guy, and I think there's also this other group that's chasing him. I think what I actually remember, I believe they were working together, but then they split up because the dwarf guy's like, I want to do it my way, or something like that. Again, I'm sorry, I don't remember some of this stuff, but I'm only doing the synopsis just as a formality. And so there's this big war between, I believe, him and the Drizzt, the hermit guy, and some animals, as well as the mercenary guy, some local orcs, and I believe there was this wolf guy. I don't think it was a Fenrir kind of thing, but it was a wolf dude of some sort, and they fight. Old man dies, Drizzt has to leave. Then finally, the actual really strong group with this one elf, they end up getting to him, or catching their trail. They end up deciding to give up. I believe it's because the wood elf realizes that they kind of suspect that Drizzt, or this drow, is not actually a bad person. They're all I don't know, maybe he was trying to protect them or something, and that's why this evidence is here. But the mercenary dwarf human whatever guy is no, it was totally a drow. I don't remember his race, but what did stood out, he was really buff, and he had a big a fluffy red beard, as well as he was balding, but he had long red hair going down, which is one of the reasons why I kind of saw him as a dwarf. I don't remember. I think he was human though. But at any rate, and it's then that so they stop, but obviously the mercenary guy's still trailing him. But it's at this point that Drizzt reaches Icewind Dale, the game, this Skyrim-y winter place, and he's trying to find a home there, and he gets to this job as this patrol guy, and he meets up with this I think it's it's either a human girl or a dwarf girl that's being raised by this dwarf, this head dwarf guy, and she and Drizzt become pretty good buddies, and they chat, but the dwarf's oh, you can't hang out with her, or you can't hang out with the drow. But he's generally, from what I remember, a little more open. I think it had something to do with like the rumors that Drizzt like murdered a farm. I think it has to do with that, because I remember I remember the dwarf guy being kind of allowing it first, then suddenly like, wait, no, it's him. But and so Drizzt is like okay, well, we can't be friends anymore or something like that. And of course, the girl like still sneaks out with him, like not in like a kinky sex way, but like they're just kind of friends and hanging out, playing games, jerking each other off now. Then of course the human dude, he catches up to him. They have their big battle, and that's kind of where the story, like, obviously Drizzt wins, and then like he's earned the respect of the community and the dwarf guy, because they've seen that he's actually a good person. And it ends with like a shot of him being like, he's finally found his home. He doesn't have to run away anymore. And I find it kind of ironic that like it's almost like a weird way of foreshadowing that he has to kind of deal with winter, and yet he chooses to live in it. I find that kind of funny. I think I remember them saying in one of the books that the Underdark was humid, I think I remember them saying that. I think the point with him being in Icewind Dale was to serve as like a visual contrast for where he was living, to kind of represent his contrast to typical drow behavior. Because again, he's not like other dark elves. He's actually nice. But yeah, so honestly, this one's probably my favorite out of the three, because one, it has more. It doesn't have that much personal growth for Drizzt. I would say it's more about him trying to kind of find his place, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, because there's the whole character growth thing. But when you think about like with stories, they generally have like the big character development moment, but then what happens after, which I think is actually kind of interesting. It's almost as if like if this was the entire story, Sojourn would almost be like a story, like as if like the writers decided to leave it on screen a little too long or a little extra. Or this is a weird way to explain, but basically, I find it interesting that it's more about him, finding his place. It's more about like self-purpose and home. Not to mention, because it takes place in like the surface area, the setting is generally a lot brighter, and because it isn't just drow and like these weird little creatures and dwarves that much. Like the cast and races are more diverse, obviously, because they're in a place that's more diverse. And I think that every story going forward will be pretty interesting. I did sample a little bit of I think the Crystal Shard is next. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's the Crystal Shard. I'll have to check. But yeah, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. Now, as I said before, the reason why I couldn't check back is because I brought the omnibus to school with me, and I had it open because I don't really use bookmarks for my comics. I just kind of leave them folded out. Plus, I don't have enough bookmarks to use for like multiple books. And one of the pages fell out because the spine was being stretched out so much. And so one of the pages fell out. And I was still able to finish it. Actually, I could put the page back in, and it would like be fine. Like it would fit in, but it wouldn't stay in, obviously, because it was a torn page. And so I tried to fix it with like glue and wax paper, but it didn't work out so well. So I'm just like, okay, you know what, whatever. And so I decided to just throw it in the garbage. I need to buy another one. I do have the second omnibus, so I'll probably start that relatively soon. But this will be the last of the Legend of Drizzt graphic novel reviews for a while. But I really like this one. This one, like I said, it's probably my favorite just because of all the stuff I mentioned. The more of a focus on finding your place and finding a place to call home, and sort of making your mark in this in this in a new place. It's almost kind of like school, like middle school and high school in a way, because a lot of kids want to fit in and fit in their niche, in their clique. Drizzt is kind of doing the same thing here in a way. He's trying to kind of find his spot, and he finds it in Icewind Dale, and it's actually a really interesting story, and it kind of gives the his saga a bit of closure, which makes me excited about the other stories, because now that he's like, obviously there's going to be more development. From what I understand, he gets married and has a child, and so he becomes a major advocate for like multiracial relationships. So that'll be something. And I do have another graphic novel that has Drizzt in it, but that'll be a separate story. So I'm actually kind of interested to see what's coming up next for Drizzt. I apologize that these reviews were not necessarily the best, though, because I did them so late, so I didn't remember everything. I think the only reason why I remembered more of Homeland was because I've read 2 different versions of it, even if one was partial and one was complete. But I really like this one, and I thought the conflict in this one was interesting, because it almost kind of seemed like a constant struggle, since Drizzt was trying to run away while find a place to live, so he couldn't really stay in one place at the same time. He kind of needed to kind of stay on his toes, and even with the whole thing with his former the Dordan family trying to kind of hunt him, and like the Spider Queen thing, like that also kind of gives a bit of sense of urgency, because it makes you wonder, like, are they going to go after him? I'm going to assume no. Of course, I don't know the other story, so. But yeah, that was Legend of Drizzt Book 3, Sojourn. I thank you for also taking part in my sojourn through the first 3 books of The Legend of Drizzt. The graphic novels at least, I will read and review. I'll read the other ones at some point, and I'll try to review them like as I read them. Like I'll read one book, then review it, read another, review it, and then it's just like 3 more books. And going forward, it may just be the novels, because I do have like the other novels after the first 6 books, so it's not like I won't be able to get more of Drizzt's story. I have plenty of material to work with, but yeah, thanks for putting up with me as I am a noob to Dragon Age. As I am a noob to Dungeons and Dragons. It's late. Leave me alone. I always do these late. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys. Just go on. Okay, bye.